Hello, everyone, and welcome to another YouTube podcast of Andy's Witchcraft by me, Tarot by Andy. I hope you are all having a wonderful day so far, or week, and I hope you are all doing well. Today's episode is something that is very special to me. We are going to talk about Saint Joseph, the father of Jesus. And who he is, his story. There's not a lot known about him because the Bible does not have a lot of mentions of him. And so a lot of people go on just knowing the basics, that he was the father of Jesus, that he was a carpenter, and that's about it. So today we are going to discuss, a little bit about his history. And then we're going to go on to ways that you can work with Saint Joseph if that's something you're interested in, and some offerings for Saint Joseph. And then I'm going to go on to discuss a ritual example that I do with Saint Joseph to connect with him. As someone who grew up with father issues, he is somebody very important to me to help me heal that inner child, to help me get over my childhood trauma. And he is part of the reason that I am who I am today. So I will forever be thankful for him. So this episode is a bit of a dedication to him. So who is Saint Joseph? Well, like I said, we know that Saint Joseph is the husband of Mother Mary and the adoptive father of Jesus Christ. The name Joseph means, may the Lord give increase. So kind of like an increase in faith, an increase in hope, an increase in love, an increase in strength. Just in general, may the Lord give increase. So to me, I love that interpretation. I love that meaning. And I think it suits this saint very well. Saint Joseph is a descendant of King David. So it is the reason why when they were prophesying the coming of the Son of God, they said that basically he would be a descendant of King David. So Saint Joseph is part of that reason, that because Saint Joseph was the descendant of King David, and that's how that came to be. However, even though he came from royalty, Saint Joseph grew up quite poor, and he had to get by as a carpenter, which didn't make much money. So the genealogy of Jesus Christ, it comes from Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 to 16. It is read, "This is the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, Judah the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar. Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Solomon the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, Abijah the father of Asa, Asa the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Jehoram, Jehoram the father of Uzziah, Uzziah the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Ammon, Ammon the father of Hosea, Hosea the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. After the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, Shealtiel the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel the father of Abihud, Abihud the father of Eliakim, Eliakim the father of Azor, Azor the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Achim, Achim the father of Elihud, Elihud the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. So that's all the genealogy, all the way from Abraham to Jesus. It's a very long process, and it is often controversial, and there's some misinterpretations regarding it, especially because some of this genealogy includes the husband, the husband's father-in-law rather than his biological father. So that's something that's very interesting, and that's why this information may not be 100% accurate, but this is the information we have, and we know that these individuals are related either through marriage or by blood. So as I stated before, very little is really known about Saint Joseph. In fact, there is not a single spoken word from Saint Joseph in the Bible. Whenever the Bible was discussing his story, when he got the news from Angel Gabriel that Mary was going to be the mother of the Messiah, they spoke it like third person, so they did not speak it in the point of view of Saint Joseph. They just spoke it as if they were the observer. And so because of that, we never really knew or fully understood what was going on in Saint Joseph's mind, only what he was, whatever he passed on, or what information was kind of known. But there is no real kind of like interview basis of Saint Joseph. We don't really know what exactly he said. But what we do know about Saint Joseph, we heard from the mouths of saints. And these saints and mystics would have dreams, visions, and other forms of conversation with Saint Joseph. So that's where a lot of the information, a lot of the knowledge we have on Saint Joseph comes from. It comes from saints and mystics who passed on this knowledge to the church, to the Pope, and it became published as fact. Because of this, it is important that you take what is mentioned in this video with a grain of salt. It is biased. It is. Only those venerated by the church had the right to come forward and give information on the visions that they saw of Saint Joseph. You would certainly not see any witches be able to give this information. It's only those that were venerated. It's only those that were blessed as saints or mystics, nuns, monks. Only they were allowed to give this information. Anyone outside the church was not allowed to give this and bring this information forward. And if they did, it was deemed demonic and inaccurate and discarded as lies. So an example of a saint who came forward with information of Saint Joseph was the German mystic Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. She had visions that confirmed that Saint Joseph was indeed the biological son of Jacob. So she was one of the reasons that this was confirmed, not only from the Bible. So like I said, some of them discuss some of the Bible books. You'll see that they mention that Joseph was actually the son of Mary's father. They put Mary's father's name. And that's because, like I said, they will put the father-in-law of the husband, because once you marry that woman, you become the son of your father-in-law and your mother-in-law. So because of that, there was controversy who was really the father of Joseph, and who was really the biological father of Mary. But Anne Catherine is the reason why we have that confirmation that it was indeed Jacob that was the biological father of Joseph, and that's where that came from. Another example, the divine writings of Mother Cecilia Beige gave details into the early life of Saint Joseph. Like we said, the Bible has no information of Saint Joseph prior to him becoming the fiancé of Mary. So the Bible did not give any details on his childhood, on his adolescence, his work, how he was, whether he believed in God as a child. The Bible gave no information on that. This information came from Mother Cecilia Beige and many other mystics. So, an interesting fact that I found out as I was doing my research is that the Bible is completely silent on who the mother of Saint Joseph is. If you track the genealogy, there's some that we mentioned Ruth, we mentioned, I'm trying to find another mother's name. There's a couple of mother's names. So we mentioned Ruth, we mentioned Rahab. So there was only a couple of mothers mentioned in there, and they were mothers that were either in other books, so they were blessed by the church, or mothers that are just commonly known. Because this was a patriarchal society where the father was deemed more important than the mother, and in fact, the wife was the property of the husband, and so the wife was deemed unimportant. It didn't matter who the mother was. It did not matter who your mother was. Your reputation came from your father, not your mother. So because of this, some predicted that Joseph's mother was named Rachel. And the reason that this conclusion came to be is because there was a Joseph of the Old Testament, and he also had a father named Jacob. And his mother, and the Joseph of the Old Testament's mother's name was Rachel. So they took this, okay, we have a Joseph and a Jacob of the Old Testament. We have a Joseph and the Jacob of the New Testament. Let's conclude that both of the wives are named Rachel as well. This was really interesting to me because it provides insight kind of into the concept of reincarnation, the fact that the same family structure repeated itself in two separate times with the names for the family members that were identical. So Saint Joseph of the New Testament also did not have any brothers or sisters, as did the Joseph of the Old Testament. So the fact that this exact same structure, two equally holy families, were the exact same names, that was interesting. And honestly, it kind of provides some sort of like somewhat concrete support for the concept of reincarnation. That's my opinion, and that's what you interpret it in a different way if you would like, coincidence or whatnot, but I interpret it as, oh, reincarnation is a thing. This is very interesting, this repetition in different lifetimes. So another fact is that when Saint Joseph was born, God already knew his plan for him. He already knew. When we're born, God has a plan for us. And it was no different for Saint Joseph. So when he was born, 3 stars appeared directly over his home. And if that sounds very familiar, it's because it mirrored the Star of David that guided the 3 shepherds to Jesus at his birth. So, as you can see here, Saint Joseph was very important from the moment that he was born. His story throughout his childhood was fairly average compared to like the normal person at the time. He did have conversations with angels as a child, and his parents always knew that he would have a future and he would play an important role in God's plan because of it. He spoke to angels, he spoke to prophets in his dreams, but other than that, he was just a normal kid like you and I, and that took a turn when he was 18. Both of his parents passed away just months apart. They passed away from illnesses. At the time, it was Saint Joseph that was their caretakers before they passed away. And he suffered a lot because of it. First he lost his, I believe it was his father that passed away first. So his father passed away and then his mother passed away first, and then shortly after his father passed away. So he was in mourning, he was his suffering, and he decided to give his suffering and mourning up to God as an offering for his protection. So Saint Cecilia Baich stated that Joseph had said, "O God, look down upon me, deprived of both father and mother. You have graciously placed them beyond reach of the cares of this mortal life, and I now beg you that in your goodness you take me entirely under your protection. I give and surrender myself entirely to you. Since I am no longer subject to anyone but you, my God, Give me the needed grace so that I too may be able to say with the royal prophet, my father and mother have left me, but the Lord has taken me up. Do with me as it pleases you. May your holy will be accomplished in me. So Saint Joseph, even during his suffering and his mourning, he still decided to turn to God. And I feel like that's something that we do, even as witches, we give up our emotions as offerings to our deities and to our guides and spirits. And it's no different for even Jews and Christians of the day. They do the exact same thing, which is why it's so weird that witchcraft is so demonized, We do the same thing. We just have different rituals, and we have more flexibility, less structure. We don't believe that we need a specific way to worship our guides and our deities. So that's just my little spiel. But Saint Joseph was really a model for me in that way. The fact that he could give his negative emotions as an offering in exchange for protection and kind of transferring them into positive emotions. So that was really noble in my eyes. And that's one of the many reasons why to me, he is the father in my life. He is my dad at this point of my, life. So after his parents passed away, Joseph became a carpenter at the age of 19, and he worked very, very hard. So the fact that he had a perfect work-life balance, honestly. Like, despite losing his parents, he knew when to work and he knew when to pray. And so because of this, he is known as the saint of carpenters or workers in general. So if you're trying to find a job, or if you're struggling in your work, or you're struggling to motivate yourself to do your job properly, highly recommend working with Saint Joseph for that, because he really is the ideal of balancing work and relationships and faith and spirituality. And honestly, he's a role model in that aspect. This is where things get a little iffy, especially nowadays with rise of grooming. I'm going to be sure to hopefully remember to put a trigger warning in the caption of this video. But with the rise of grooming and sex trafficking and all that, when you realize the age difference between Joseph and Mary, a lot of people are iffy. But honestly, when I'm thinking of the times, and also the fact that I personally believe they never had sexual relations, I do believe they remained virgins. So in the end, I saw Joseph more as a protector. He was a husband kind of like on paper, but to me, I saw him more as like a protector, someone who was trying to protect Mary, like as a close friend kind of thing. But when Mary reached the age of 14, all the men from the royal house of David were called to go to Jerusalem temple so that a man may be chosen to be her husband. This is why it's very iffy, because at the time Joseph was 33 years old. And so that's a big gap. It's a 19 years gap. On top of that, she was very much a minor and he was a grown adult. But that's why, in my eyes, knowing Saint Joseph and the way I communicated with him, and when I do readings with him and I ask him questions, I know, and he has told me through these divination methods, that he never did have sexual relations with Mary. And as far as I know, like that's my personal belief. And so I feel less weirded out knowing this information. But again, you are all entitled to your beliefs. I know there are some branches of Christianity that do believe that Jesus had many biological brothers and sisters, which means that Joseph and Mary would have had to have sexual relations. But regardless, I believe that if they had sexual relations, I think that Joseph would have waited till she was an adult, a grown adult with consent. Maybe like early 20s, mid 20s. That's my opinion. I I feel more comfortable believing that, and that's just my belief. But anyways, at the time, the high priest heard the voice of God tell him to place in the hands of each of the men there a dry stick. So each of the men there got a stick. It wasn't wet, and you'll find out why it had to be dry. It's because God told the high priest that the man who is worthy of getting Mary's hand in marriage would have their staff blossom. So it would start to bloom flowers. So, of course, Joseph's staff was the only one to blossom, and it blossomed with white lilies. And a white dove was seen to descend onto his head. And this is why many statue depictions of Saint Joseph show him holding a staff with white flowers or having him hold the white flowers directly in his hand. It's because of this belief that that's what happened at the time that Mary was going to have a husband or be betrothed. So then after this, we all know what happened next based on the Bible. We don't need, saints and mystics to tell us what happened. It's all in there. Where Mary received news from the angel Gabriel that she was pregnant with the Messiah. Joseph, believing that Mary had cheated, was going to call off the marriage quietly to preserve her dignity. He wasn't going to make a drama. He wasn't going to cause a ruckus. But then the angel Gabriel appeared to him, told him that Mary's pregnant with the Son of God, and that he was going to be the adoptive father to guide Jesus through life, to give him a male role model, to teach him what it means to be a man of faith. And so Joseph stood up and became Jesus' adoptive father. And this act alone makes him the saint of fathers, especially if you're adoptive father, if you're a stepfather, taking in children that are not your biological children, that this saint is excellent to work with and to help you build a bond with that child, especially in a society that tells you you have to be blood related to be a father or mother, which is completely wrong, FYI. But yes, so that was the marriage aspect, and we all know throughout the life Jesus was targeted. There was the killing of all the sons, the male babies. I think under the age of 2 they did, I believe. I might be wrong about the age. Where Joseph then sent them away, ran away kind of to protect his family. Again, he was a protector more than a romantic companion for Mary, in my opinion, in my eyes. But so it is believed that Joseph passed away in Nazareth when he was around 63 years old. So it made Jesus around 30 years old. Which I believe he was 33 when the crucifixion happened. So this was 3 years before Jesus passed away. So Joseph at the time experienced feelings of ecstasy, and he experienced the comfort of angels. Like we said, Joseph has spoken to angels in his dreams his entire life. And at this moment, it was no different. He experienced that. And Jesus and Mary were right there by his side. He felt a sense of peace at the thought of dying. And he knew his task on earth was completed. His task was to make Jesus grow up to be a holy man, worthy of being called the Son of God, the Messiah. And at that moment, he knew his job was done and he was ready to experience the peace of the heavens. So this was Joseph's final words. And again, this is based on the words of saints and mystics. Again, you can hold this with a grain of salt, but I feel a lot of comfort seeing that these were the words, because he experienced such a peaceful death. And so to Mary, he said, "Blessed art thou among all women. Let angels and men praise thee. Let all generations know, praise, and exalt thy dignity. And may the Most High be eternally praised for having created thee, so pleasing in his eyes and in the sight of all the blessed spirits. I hope to enjoy thy sight in the heavenly fatherland." To Jesus he said, "My highest Lord and God, Son of the eternal Father, give thy blessing to thy servant. Pardon the faults which I have committed in thy service and interactions. I extol and magnify thee, and render heartfelt thanks for thee, for having chosen me to be the spouse of thy true mother. Let thy greatness and glory be my thanksgiving for all eternity. And so Saint Joseph passed away before Jesus began his ministry, before he got the disciples, before he spread the word of God. And that would explain why there are barely any spoken words of his in the Bible, in the New Testament, because nobody found out that Jesus was the Son of God until after Joseph passed away. Nobody thought that his life and his meaning had any purpose to be written down until way after Saint Joseph passed away. The Bible wasn't written until years after Jesus died, and so that's years and years after Saint Joseph died. So that would explain a lot. But one of the facts that I do know in my heart and soul, and you can believe, is that Saint Joseph is and always was a protector. He loved his family no matter what. He brings peace of mind. He was a selfless man who sacrificed everything to protect his family. In fact, when there was kind of like a bounty on the head of Jesus, he moved away to Nazareth, then back to Bethlehem when God told him it was safe to do so. So he moved around a lot. He found jobs, small jobs to get money to support his family. He did everything for Jesus and Mary. And for that, I am personally grateful to him. So now, what can you work with Saint Joseph for? Well, if you want to work with him, what are like the areas of life that are his specialties? I personally consider him to be the saint of dreams. Like I said, the angel Gabriel and angels in general only came to speak to him in dreams, and he gave us information on his life through the dreams and visions of other saints. And so dreams are kind of his connection. So if you want to get to remember your dreams, if you want to work on dream work, maybe like astral projecting, if that's something you're interested in doing, as a ChristoPagan who works with Saint Joseph, or anyone who works with Saint Joseph, you don't even have to be ChristoPagan to work with saints. But if you want to work with Saint Joseph, that's an area that I will highly recommend him for. In fact, Mystic Celia Baij stated that the devil, that hellish fiend, was aware of the light that abided in Joseph, and he feared that this child would arouse others to take up the struggle against him. He attempted several times to take the child's life, but his plans always went awry. For Joseph was protected by the almighty arm of God. Joseph was guarded by two angels. And the angel who had been assigned to speak to him in his dreams continually advised him on what to do to overcome the infernal demon. Joseph never failed to carry out the admonitions of the angel. So Joseph not only had dreams of angels, but he remembered them, and he remembered to listen to their warnings and listen to what they had to say and do as he was told. Another aspect, like I said, Saint Joseph is the patron saint of fathers. So if you are someone who wants to heal from childhood trauma, maybe your dad abandoned you, maybe you don't have a father in your life, if you want a father figure in your life, Saint Joseph is the man for you, because he was the ideal selfless man. Even when he was angry and agitated, he apologized for it. I've done polls where I asked Joseph, like, did you ever fight with Jesus, get into like petty arguments? And he would say yes. And if he was in the wrong, he would reflect, he would pray to God. And when it found out if he was in the wrong, he would apologize. And Jesus would do the same if he was wrong. So he is really good with that. He is just the ideal man. And of course, he makes mistakes. We're all human. He apologized to Jesus for his mistakes at his deathbed. But no matter what, he would apologize and he would find concrete ways to make up for it, not just words. And so if you want a father figure in your life, he's the man. If you are a father and you're worried about making mistakes, work with him to be more, I guess, like, what's the word? Be more able to swallow your pride and say, I made a mistake. And St. Joseph is great for that too. He is also the patron saint of workers. So like I said, if you're looking for a job, if you want to motivate yourself to do work, if you want to figure out what career path is right for you, it's really good to pray and reflect with St. Joseph, especially if you're a carpenter and your hands are sore with like arthritis, but you love doing like woodworking and carpentry. Pray to him, and he is capable of healing your hands. He's good for all carpenters or people who work with their hands, but workers in general, he's also really great with. And finally, he is the patron saint of a happy death. Like I said, his death was peaceful. How do I word it? His death was peaceful, but he's also capable of giving you peace during times of death. So whether you're the one who's dying or someone else in your life is dying, if you pray and work with him, he will make it, maybe not a happy death is the word, because death is never like a joyous thing, but he will make it a peaceful death. He will make you able to grieve in a healthy way. He's really great with grief. I work with him a lot for my grief, and he's just fantastic, and I love him very, very much for that. Of course, you can work with him for like any other aspect in your life, friends, relationships, connecting with nature, any other aspect of your life, money, like whatever, you can work with him, of course. These are just like his general specialties. Like any other saint has, patron saint of da-da-da-da-da. They have their specialties, but they are capable of helping you with any range of issues if you turn to them and say, I need your help. Can you help me? So, what offerings can you give to St. Joseph? Well, the first is white lilies or white flowers in general, because of the story you just heard when he was betrothed to Mary, which is like seen as the happiest day of his life. That is a good offering. It's kind of like to bring a good memory to him, and he'll feel a sense of joy and peace thinking of that. Then you could also do candles. I generally do either green, brown, and or yellow, because those are the colors of his robe that he wore. And like brown is generally, like when I think of the color brown, I think of like work, career, and like working with your hands, which he was a carpenter, so there's that. And yellow is just a joyous color, and green, I just think of like a strong paternal color, like either green or blue, but blue I more associate with Mother Mary, so I go with the greens for St. Joseph. But again, any candle color is great. These are just my personal like preferences for him. You could also give him shiny coins, especially if you want him to help you with finances and finding a job. Putting coins on your altar or giving them as an offering to him is great. I've read online also that fava beans helps. Legend has it that you will never be broke as long as you carry a fava bean. And so the myth of the fava bean about never being broke began during the famine in Sicily, where the bean was used as fodder for cattle. And to survive, the farmers prepped them for the table. Hence, they are considered themselves to be lucky to have them. And the bean is also a symbol of fertility, since it grows well, even in poor, rocky soil. And the Italians in general would carry a bean from a good crop to ensure a good crop the following year. So if you want St. Joseph to help you with your planting, being in nature, abundance in general, abundance, fertility, just growth, spiritual growth as well, fava beans are a great offering for him as well. There's also coffee, the coffee beans or the coffee powder. For the same reasons, they're just good for hard working. You know, you can't survive a day at work without a cup of coffee, you know, that kind of thing. And I just choose to give him coffee just because these days it's such a dad thing, I find. Like, I don't know, so many dads like drink coffee to help them get through their work. And so I feel like giving coffee to St. Joseph is his way, like, here, you're gonna need it, trust me, for what I have what I'm about to ask of you, you're going to need the energy. So take this coffee. And it's just, yeah, it represents abundance in general. And then finally, bread. Bread is not only the symbol of Jesus, but it's also a good symbolize of Joseph and his sacrifice for his family, to put bread on the table. Like I said, he worked small, sometimes meaningless jobs, but anything to get money in order to get food for his family. By giving bread to him, it's kind of like saying, here, this is for your family. Take it and feed Jesus and Mary with it. And that is a good offering for him as well. But essentially, anything that symbolizes abundance and material wealth can be seen as a good offering for Saint Joseph. He is, like I said, the saint of hard workers. And then if you want to use him for dream work, like I said that I do sometimes, amethyst is a good crystal to offer to him for dreams. I have this nighttime dream helps me sleep essential oil that I put on myself, but sometimes I dab it on a piece of paper and put that paper on his altar as an offering for him to help me with my dream work. So anything in general that helps you with sleep, with dreams, that's a good offering as well. And then for the happy death aspect, the peaceful death, any black colored crystals is great for that, to help you find peace in the darkest times. Candle, like I said, also helps with that, kind of like the light in the darkness of grief and misery and suffering. He's great for that as well. And then for being a father, I gave some of offerings, like the coffee I described as like a dad thing, so that's why I give it to him. Candles as well, to say thank you for being a father. The color green, especially for me, is just like a paternal color. I don't know why, but I always see, when I think of dad, I think of the color green. So that's what I go with. And yeah, just in general, anything that you would gift to your father, flowers sometimes, I know dads don't really like flowers, but I give them to him on his altar as well as an offering. And that's just, all those are just some ideas. You can basically give him anything, especially if it's specific to what your intention is. But these are just what I do, not on a daily basis, but whenever I work with him, those are the offerings I give. Finally, I will be going on to describing a ritual that I do with Saint Joseph. This is one that I came up with, but you can tweak it and alter it to whatever you would like to do, whatever you would like to say. If you want to change the wording, go ahead. But the ritual that I typically do, I usually do during the month of March, because his feast day is March 19th. And I also do it in the month of June, because in the northern, in the northern hemisphere, Father's Day, or in North America, why did I say northern hemisphere? In North America, June is the month of Father's Day. So these are when I will do rituals with Saint Joseph to work on him like as a father. So the first thing I do is I gather incense, my offerings, and candles. Sometimes I don't have a specific intention. I think of this as like a mini service to St. Joseph. So if it's like a general service, I just grab whatever I feel like, or whatever I feel like St. Joseph is saying, hey, use this as an offering. I want this. Then after I gather them and light the incense and candles, I start by doing the sign of the cross. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. And I say the following prayer. O most watchful guardian of the Holy Family, defend the children of Jesus Christ. O most loving Father, ward off corruption and negative energy. O most strong protector, from heaven assist me in my struggle with the power of darkness. Do this so that I may be able to live piously as God desires and to gain eternal happiness in heaven. Amen. Then I will read Matthew chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. So I'll read it to you now. This is how the birth of Jesus the Messiah came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet, "The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel," which means God is with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. I then read Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 to 20. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So those are two very important verses, the things I emphasized during this video. The first was that, Joseph was a protector of Mary, so he was faithful to the law and he always wanted to protect her. Even when he thought that she cheated on him, he wanted to protect her from public disgrace. And then the second one is physical protection, protecting from death, protecting Jesus from harm. So they're very two important parts of the Bible that I love to read. Then, because I love to sing, I sing the hymn, "Dear Guardian of Mary." I don't know it that well. I always play it with YouTube and just hum along until I can learn the words. But I heard the song and I immediately felt St. Joseph with me, giving me a warm hug. So this song is something I will always feel. Clairsentience, if you're a clairsentient, you get what I'm saying when I say songs, you can feel them. They come with the feeling of your guide. So this song it makes me feel like I'm getting a warm hug from Joseph. Then I end this ritual with the sign of the cross. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, comment below or DM me. If you enjoyed this video and any other of my content, you can like this video, comment below, and subscribe to my channel. That would be great. Huge support for me. You can also follow me on TikTok for more content like this. That's a shorter video. And my TikTok is @Tarot by Andy. And you can follow me on Instagram as well @Andy's Witchcraft. And I will post much more videos, short videos, and also make some posts about my practice so you can have a visual and keep them in mind if you want to incorporate anything in your practice. So blessed be everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, month, and year.